Good morning, everybody. We'll call our meeting to order. It's 9 o'clock. Welcome to the Iowa 911 Communications Council meeting for June. We're going to do something a little bit different now. We used to go out into the crowd and have everybody introduce themselves as well as on the telephone, and apparently that's not working very well for the audio-visual side of this. So if everyone could just please make sure that they've signed in. There should be sign-in sheets going around, and we'll get you signed in or do it before you leave. But otherwise, we'll start our introductions up here.
George Griffith, representing the Iowa Peace Officers Association.
Jack D'Angelo, Sully Telephone, representing small telcos.
Mark Murphy, Dubuque County, representing the Iowa Firefighters Association.
Mike Bryant from Ames, representing the Iowa Professional Firefighters.
Rob Denner from West Des Moines, representing the Iowa EMS Association.
Rob Rotter, Iowa County Sheriff, representing Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association.
Sally Hall, Iowa County 911, representing Iowa APCO.
Gerard Myers, Assistant Director, representing Iowa Department of Public Safety.
Tracy Beeren, Polk County Emergency Management, representing Iowa NENA.
Blake DeRucci, Iowa Homeland Security Emergency Management, 911 Program Manager.
Wayne Johnson, CenturyLink, representing Large Telco.
Thank you. All right, moving along. Can I entertain a motion to approve today's agenda? Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. And then likewise for the May 10th, 2018 minutes. Have a motion? Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Okay. Blake, do you have a report for us?
I do. Sean, can you throw up the PowerPoint? Thank you. All right, to give you an update on where we stand with the various projects we have in going on, the ICN and Hancock County proof of concept with Zetron have both been signed. The full Zetron contract, hopefully we're going to be signing that later this week. Everything's ready to go. It just takes signatures at this point. So with that proof of concept, it basically allowed us to work a little bit ahead of the game, specifically with Hancock County to get them up and running on the shared services. So we expect that will be ready. It says here mid-July. It actually looks like it's slid a little bit. It'll be early August, and they will be up and running on the host remote system that we have set up for the state. So the notice of interest and intake form are available now. Did a webinar 2 days ago. It was well attended, as you can see, and talked through some of that process and some of the procedures on what it takes to get up and running on the shared system. So we already actually received another notice of interest from a county that is interested in participating as a remote off of the state host. So that's going very well. The training and public education application is now online also for the upcoming fiscal year. We've, again, already started receiving some applications. You don't have them in front of you. You'll take a look at those at the July meeting once the fiscal year actually changes over. But that is up and running. So it's really about the same process we've used in the past, except rather than emailing me all the documentation, you'll just be using the online form that most everyone's familiar with at this point. I think probably everyone has saw in the news or received an update that we did have a transition with our HSEMD director. Director Scouten retired. Joyce Flynn, who's been my supervisor my entire time with Homeland Security, was appointed the acting director. As far as 911 goes, not really expecting any changes. Nothing of note that I foresee will be coming down anytime soon to have us change direction in any sort of significant manner. Also, just of note, NASNA is this weekend, so the meeting of all my counterparts from all the states get together just prior to the NENA meeting, which is next week. So I'll be out of the loop a little bit and probably a little bit slow to reply to emails. You have 2 GIS grants to review. This will be the last GIS grants that you'll have to review, and I'll get into why that is here in a little bit. So those 2 are the ones that you have before you. Also a reminder that any outstanding grants are due July 15th. Projects need to be completed June 30th, but you have a couple weeks then to get our office the paperwork. So there's quite a few still out, so just get us that reimbursement paperwork as soon as you can. Speaking of the upcoming GIS grants, we mentioned this last month, talked about it during the webinar on Tuesday, just kind of trying to reiterate it again. We reimagined, I guess, the way we're doing the GIS grants. In the past, basically a PSAP or a service board would apply based on a project they wanted to do, in theory to continue to increase their data accuracy. But there wasn't really a measurable that went along with that grant. As long as you did the project, you got your reimbursement check. But there wasn't any way to drive change, to drive better data. So that's what we're trying to do this year. So there'll be 2 6-month periods, the first half of the year and the second half of the year, where there'll be benchmarks that we're looking for. So if a jurisdiction or a county uploads their data and they meet those benchmarks, you get your $6,000 check times 2, 1 for each period. So again, no longer an application form. So I showed this last time, and I showed this during the program update webinar a couple days ago. And during the webinar, I kind of made mention that it's not necessarily set in stone yet, but we're looking for some feedback, so we're able to set it in stone. So we're able to get those benchmarks out to the stakeholders that need to know about it. We actually had a meeting with GeoCom yesterday, and really tried to take a look at those percentages, those benchmarks, and kind of came to the realization that they're probably a little high. We want to provide you the grant funding. We don't want to make it hard, or at least impossible to reach those benchmarks. So let me exit out of this real quick, and I'll show you one of the reports that I get, and it's specifically about the ALLI and the MSAG that I want everyone to take a look at. The GIS data layers are really good. They're in that 95 to 98 percentile that we're looking at, so there's not really any concerns there. The concerns come with the benchmark for the ALLI and the MSAG that we listed, that 95 to 98%. So there's a lot, pull up the screen again, Sean. This is a lot of numbers, I'll fully admit it. But if you look at the MSAG, there's a whole lot of counties that have submitted data, and it's in the 0 range, the 10, 11, 12, 23, 50% range. In fact, you have to scroll a long ways down before you start to see those counties that are in the 95 to 98% range. So that's kind of where our concern is with setting that benchmark that high. You're not showing it? Why? Good thing I didn't have anything else up on that screen. Okay, anyway, we get a report on a monthly basis. Yeah, go for it. This is like that scene in Spaceballs.
That should work, but, all right, sorry, man.
No problem. We get a monthly report that has a lot of numbers on it, and it shows all of those percentages and the match rates that counties submit their data. GeoCom analyzes it and spits out how many matches there are, or what the data accuracy. And as we looked at that, the benchmark that we had initially put out for the MSAG requirement was really, people weren't going to be able to make that benchmark. I'm going to call it Jessica real quick to kind of cover some additional information on this and kind of our plan to increase awareness and increase that accuracy rate. So Jessica, could you come up real quick?
Sure. So my name is Jessica Fry. I represent GeoCom, and we do QA/QC reports every month for counties. And then we also do quarterly ALLI and MSAG synchronization rates. And the goal is 98%. That's what's written into the standards. However, we wanted to bring your attention to a couple of things. Currently, we have 23 counties without MSAG submissions and 10 without ALI submissions. So when we're looking at the synchronization rates, we have to remember that we have those counties who have not submitted the data yet, for whatever the reason may be. And one of the things that we are finding in the synchronization is that the GIS data is really high accuracy, as Blake said. However, what is happening is the GIS data is representing the official street names of the roads, and the ALI and the MSAGs, because they are handled by someone differently than the GIS, have non-official street names. So think back when E911 first started, we tried to save storage space, right? So a lot of our ALIs and our MSAGs have AVE or avenue represented as AV. And so when we look at the synchronization, it has to be a one-to-one. So if our GIS data has AVE as the post type, our ALI and our MSAG also have to have the AVE. So we're seeing a lot of that occur in the counties, which means that there's going to have to be an effort for the counties to clean up their MSAG and their ALI. You clean up your MSAG, then that gets replicated to your ALI and makes those corrections. So what we're going to do over the next couple of months is look at each county individually and set up a call with those counties and walk through with them specifically what they need to look at and what they need to target and what they need to correct. So yes, the GIS data is ready to go for over 65 counties, I think, in the state of Iowa. But the ALI and the MSAG needs some work so that we can transition to next-gen 911 call routing.
So our intent is still to do the GIS grant using the benchmarks. But what you see there for the ALI and MSAG standardization, we will be dropping that from something much lower than the 95 to 98% range. It'll be much lower than that. GeoCom is in town because there is a GIS IT type of conference where all of that community comes together in town this week. So hopefully between that community, we'll be able to get those benchmarks out in advance of July 1st so people know what they are going into the year. Any questions on that? Another update on where we stand at the end of the current fiscal year, so the fiscal year that ends here in a couple weeks, on the council travel, public education, and training. There's still about $3,800 left. We did the social media campaign. I have some numbers to report out on that as well. My suggestion at this point is basically to print some text to 911 type flyers. One of our PIOs, public information officers, had an idea for like text to 911 bookmarks to be able to get those in the school, just to be able to make sure we use that $100,000 completely. With whatever flyers we're able to print with that amount, we'd be happy to share if anyone else needs those type of materials. So that would be my suggestion. And then just a reminder, if there is anyone on the 911 Council that plans on submitting travel reimbursement, just our fiscal year is coming to an end, so just please get that in. So we did do and it's still going on, it's about halfway through the social media public education campaign on text to 911. You can see some of the ads that are out there on Facebook and Instagram as well as Google, and how many impressions and the reach of those ads. So again, it's about halfway through that campaign, and you can kind of see where those numbers are. You know, I was amazed. Maybe I'm sure it's because I live in this world. You know, with the governor's press conference last October, as soon as we fired those ads out on Facebook, there was still so many people that have commented and had no idea text 911 was available. So we've been pretty interactive on replying to those messages as they pop up on Facebook. And you can tell we're definitely reaching maybe the type of people that don't pay attention to a governor's press conference or something. So I think it's been very successful so far. Any other questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Blake. All right, moving on, in reference to the grant applications that Blake mentioned, Davis County and Osceola County. I don't believe we have anybody on the board that, or on the council that's related to those applications, so I would entertain a motion to approve those together. Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? And motion carries. We did not have any training fund requests. Or we'll move on to any technical advisory comments. Nothing? Okay. Then we'll move on to interoperability. Chris, you have a report for us?
Morning, everyone. Thank you very much for having me up here. As always, I appreciate it. I also want to thank the members of this council and other members of the public safety and public service community who have offered to assist with coverage testing so far with the network. That offer of assistance is much appreciated, more than you know. If you want to help with coverage testing and see what the network looks like for yourself, please let me know. We have some volunteers from various parts of the state, but we're always looking for more. We've been able to iron out some of the logistical issues with vehicles to some extent. We're still working on that. Eyes wide open, we are delayed somewhat on that expected day of coverage testing commencement because of some frequency coordination issues with Missouri. Things are moving along with that, and we hope to have a very quick resolution. I think it's going to delay us maybe, a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, but I think we're in good shape overall with that. We continue to pass new standards at the board level every month that outline how the ISIX platform will work and will be set up for end users. These are very, very dependent on user feedback, so if you want to be a part of that group, please let me know. Or if you just have any general questions on what is being published to the ISIXB website, with regards to those standards, please let me know. Some of them are rather lengthy, and there's a simple explanation for most of them. Another set of standards is been passed. They have been added to the ISIXB website since last month as well. Included in those is the pursuit standard, so if anyone was curious on how that's going to look potentially going forward, it's up there. Another set of standards meetings is slated for June 9th in Dallas County, just north of Adel. I'm headed to Atlanta next week for the TIA, TR8, and P25 steering committee meetings. As always, this is where the rubber meets the road with developing standards and how these things actually work as far as LMR goes. So if you have any ideas, concerns, or general questions, please let me know. I am taking some ideas from various encryption meetings we've had to the groups there so that we can start getting some of our feedback incorporated into feature sets and standards that'll work universally across the platform. So that feedback that is provided to me does get relayed to those people that are in a position to make a sizable difference. One more news item I have available for you now. I think this has been kind of on the burner for a while, but officially word was announced that FirstNet will now allow volunteer fire onto FirstNet. In the past, it was thought that it might just be professional fire. But it looks like volunteer will now be on as well. This is big news because there's a very sizable contingent of volunteer firefighters out there that may or may not have a department-issued device. So now they can jump on there individually and get that priority and preemptive coverage as needed. So with that being said, I'm going to keep it brief today, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, generally we'd hear from Jim Lundstedt at this point. I don't believe he's here. Is there anyone here in his place? I don't think so. Okay, moving on. Tracy, do you have any updates on our
Yes,
committee?
we met yesterday and we're going to continue to meet via in-person and a conference call line. We do want to extend that offer for more individuals to come in with the conversation because right now we have small county and big counties. So we need that middle of the road spectrum because just because business operates a certain way in, let's say, Polk County or another small county doesn't make it right for everybody. And so when we're looking at these changes with Iowa Code and 34A, we want to make sure it's good for all. We want to have equitable solutions to issues that we're grappling with, and we grappled with a lot of issues yesterday and trying to see how we can ground those in Iowa code while letting it still be implementable by the state and by those who are going to look to enforce the code. But we want to look at what we want for Iowa. What do we want in terms of the 911 program down the road? Not just today, but a long-term roadmap, because the Iowa code should reflect that. And it should reflect equitable solutions. It should reflect the way that we operate in Iowa. Iowa is very different than other states. And so the code should reflect what we are doing here and what we want to look at and what we want the program to be and how we want 911 to operate. So please, you can either participate in the meetings, you can email me if you do not want to attend regular meetings, you can attend some of the meetings, but we want as much conversation as possible. We want to be productive. We want to be able to produce something that's good for all. And I know the practices in terms of the way we've practiced for 911 and conducted business is very different than we do it today, but just because we've always done something one way doesn't make it the best way to continue to do business. And so that's why we're really looking at it with a fine tooth and comb and trying to make something that's really good for everyone throughout the state. Does anybody have any questions? My email is up on the Iowa NENA website. I don't know if the state has council members' emails or not. But you can look in both places. If not, go to Polk County Emergency Management. You can call the office and get a hold of me, and I'd be more than happy to share what we've discussed so far and get you involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, do you have any legislative updates? Okay, any items for discussion from council? Okay. Believe we have any unfinished business, any new business? Believe you have any travel requests? Okay. Any business from the floor? All right. I don't know how many people are on the phone. Is there anyone on the phone that has anything they wish to discuss? Okay. Well, that was a really quick meeting. We should have had a potluck or something when we did this. Okay. Well, can I entertain a motion to adjourn? All right, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.